Relax, the keyboard is off and the press box is closed, but the mic is just getting warmed up. Welcome to the Hockey Writers Ink, the show where the writer is fresh off the presses and the ink is not dry. Join your host, Lance Green, the guardian of the blue paint turned writer, and co-host SteelFlyers, as we bring you all the latest on the Philadelphia Flyers. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Hockey Writers Ink, a Flyers-centric podcast, welcoming your host, Mr. Lance Green. How are you doing, Mr. Lance Green?
I'm all right, Steel. How are you?
Oh, man. I'll tell you what, I am so fired up because guess what, folks? We are talking Philadelphia Flyers hockey, and man, I'll tell you what, we couldn't be talking about a better subject. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, coming off the win that they had yesterday, yeah, that was amazing. Win against the Sabers after just losing them to them with a very similar score the game before last. So that title is very fitting this week, I think, Steel, that you came up with.
I think so too, and listen, folks, we want to get right into it. We want to dive right in because we got a lot of stuff to talk about and a short time to get there. So here we go, folks. Episode number 144. The Philadelphia Flyers welcome in an old friend, adversity, and it's going to come in the form of some injuries to some very key players in the Buffalo, in the first of the home-and-home series against Buffalo. Playing up in Buffalo, Carter Hart left towards the end of the first period with a mid-body injury. So it was initially thought that he was going to be out for a longer period of time, like 3 to 6 weeks. But now I think they're saying that he's going to be more day-to-day instead of week-to-week. So
reassuring, okay. I guess.
That is reassuring, right? Okay, but here's the other major issue, too, as well. Sean Couturier missed the game, the second game at the home-and-home with the Flyers playing Buffalo back in Philadelphia. And Sean Couturier missed that game. And that created an entire shuffling of the lines. And I got to tell you something, Lance. The Vancouver game, I thought, was one of their best games. Do you know what I mean?
Yes. Like,
I just really thought that Vancouver game was one of their best games. But this game here against the Buffalo Sabers at home for the second part of the back-to-back, I mean, they didn't play back-to-back nights. There was a night in between. But I really thought this was one of the better Flyers games that, I mean, got to watch all the way around. I mean, they actually had... Penalty killing was good. Power play was good. I mean, 5-on-5 was good. Goaltending was good.
Yeah, they got off to a hot start for sure, and they never let off. That's kind of what they did, in Vancouver as well when they won big there. Just really, really, great play. Good to see these guys come together and surround that ability to be able to just come off that hard injury. Obviously, that's scary, especially, with him potentially being out for so long and Cal Peterson kind of struggling even at the Phantoms level this year. With over close to 4 goals against average down there, and he's only won 1 game so far down there. So if that was going to be our, call-up guy, that's kind of scary. But, Sam was able to come in last night and stand tall. And, like you said, only let in 1 goal there. And the team ended up winning 5-1. So, adversity is key here. Some bigger guys in Louis Belpito and all that, came out there, got his first NHL goal. And then, the guys that were supposed to do something did something last night, like we've been talking about. The people that are supposed to be gaining us the goals and carrying us, the Travis Konechny's and the Scott Laughtons, came up big, and as they should. They get paid to do so. But, Bobby Brink had another great game as well. A goal, an assist, 2 points.
He looks
You
good.
know, he's just been on fire,
Yeah,
and
he looks good.
he looks finally healthy, like he did, back at University of Denver. So kudos to him, man. It's exciting to see him continue to become a better player every game. I see more and more from him that I like. So it's been pretty fun to watch.
I
Even when the
agree.
Flyers lose, like you
Yeah.
said, they're in games. They're in games right now, as they were last year, but they have a little bit more firepower when Couturier and people are there.
Key
And now
key
that Brink's
point there.
healthy,
Key point
right,
there. They have a little bit more
right,
firepower.
yeah, to be able to sustain that, goal scoring ability, to be able to maintain where they're at in the standings, right now, and as well as in games, just staying in games and being competitive is what I think the Flyers brass and coaching staff has preached with this rebuild.
Yeah.
They want to be, their goal for right now is to be more competitive and not be just a walkover team. And I think that they're there. I think that they're doing that. They still have some great prospects, that some of which we'll talk about hopefully in a little bit here. But that are coming up the pike. But for right now, with what we got, they're holding steadfast, I think.
With 5-5-1 record in the first 11 games. Okay, now the Flyers have played so far the most games in the division. Okay, or tied for the most games in the division, with 11. Some of those will catch up here in the next couple of days. But I'm there was a stretch there where the team was not really putting the wins together. They were facing, and that's what I mean by the adversity. Because adversity is not only going to just come in the form of injuries, but it's going to come in the form of losses. This team is going to lose games. People have to realize that that is what's going to happen. Yes, the team is going to be in it. They're going to be close. They're going to be fighting towards the end. I mean, with the exception of the Anaheim game, 7-4, everything else, yeah, which that's the quacker against the Ducks anyway. But when you look at that, I think that was Ericsson's first play for the season, his first game. He looked really shaky. He let in some really soft goals that we normally don't see him let in. Do you know what I mean, for
Hmm.
that game? So I kind of throw that game out and I say, all right, so far now for 10 games now, since you throw that Anaheim game out, the Flyers have been in games where they've lost the games. They were not, blowout losses, with the exception of the Sabers game the other night. That was kind of I mean, for whatever reason, the Sabers just shut down the Flyers, and they were snake bit or whatever you want to call it, weren't able to get as many goals as they could have, or as opportunities they had. Do you know what I mean, in that first game against Buffalo? But in the second game, man, it was all Philadelphia. They just steamrolled over Buffalo like they weren't even there. This was the same Buffalo team that put a nine burger on the team last year. I mean, embarrassed Philadelphia badly. Okay, so I don't know about y'all, but these would be games that I'd be circling on my calendar, going Buffalo. Oh yeah, we need to take care of Buffalo. They got one more game against them because they play 3 games, so they got one more game against them, and I want to see them beat Buffalo. Okay,
Well, it's interesting games to watch against the Sabres as well, because it's a team that a lot of people still write off. I mean, as well as they did last year, people are starting to wake up about them. But for years they have struggled and been in a rebuild and been trying to draft these players. But last year it kind of all clicked for them, and they're
one
coming
point
together.
away,
These
one point
these
away from the
these
playoffs.
yeah, these young players are coming together. They're starting to play well, and it's something that I've been preaching, and we've been preaching still for a while now. They've gotten their youth together. down in their AHL, and they've been playing together, and now look at them.
Yeah.
They're going, and this is the direction I hope that the Flyers are going. They have their youth. They need to get them to play together as soon as possible and get them all in one rink and have them build a cohesion together and some experience of playing together before they get called up to the NHL. And this is what it is. We're a couple of years away. We beat them last night. Great, but would I think we take them in a 7-game series? No, I don't think so. Um, because I
Well,
think they are just that much better than the Flyers right now. But
yeah, yeah, okay, I could see that.
in a couple of years, like I
Or
said,
next
where
year.
they're a year or two ahead of us. I think in their
Yeah,
development,
yeah, I
and
agree.
when we get a certain player or two that we have in our pipeline up, it all may change, and we may see a lot more wins and all that stuff, and some of the success that they've had last year, and continuing on into this year. So it'll be interesting.
I agree.
I think
I agree.
Jersey is one of those teams as well that had struggled since Brodeur and all those guys kind of retired, and that reign. Of cup winning talent there, and Jersey went away. They rebuilt, and it's taken a few years. But this is just something that the Flyers fans are not used to. We're not used to having to sit and wait for development.
Keyword.
We're used to quick fixes, right? Go out and spend a lot of money or a lot of assets and rebuild real quick and veteran players or something like that. But that is not today's NHL. You need to be able to build through the draft, and I think that's what Danny is trying to do here. He's taken some home run swings on Mishkov and all that, where other teams passed him up because he signed for a few years and everything that went on and is going on in Russia as well. But
He's lighting it up,
hopefully
though.
he's lighting it up. He's certainly a player. You can't deny his abilities.
Nope.
We just need to be crafty in a way to be able to sneak him over here, and
Hey, I got an idea,
somehow
Lance. I
sooner
got an
rather than
idea.
later.
Yeah, I got an idea, Lance. Hey, we could contact the Flyers and say, hey, we'll go on a secret mission, and me and you will go over there, and we'll invite him to come
Yeah,
and play the United States.
yeah. So who knows? But
No, I tell you what, though,
I
Lance, you
like
made
the
a lot
direction.
of
I like the
great
direction they're
points.
going there.
But you made a lot of great points about things. You know what I mean? Where you, you got to be able to build through the draft. You got to be able to build through this youth. There is so much talent coming up through right now, where to be able to harvest some of this talent at the right time. I feel like the Flyers are kind of hitting that perfect time here to grab some of these generational talent that's coming up through. Do you know what I mean? Look, you cannot deny the fact that Mitchkov is one of those types of talents. He is a generational talent kind of player. He will impact the game like Connor Bedard. Okay, there's just no two ways around it. You just see that in the player. The problem is that he's in Russia. So, but there's a couple of other players that the Flyers have selected over the last couple of drafts that aren't playing in Russia, right? And some of those players are the basis of the editor in chief, the writer extraordinaire, the guardian of the blue paint turned writer's latest article where he goes down on the farm and checks out some of the centers that are coming up through the system. And this, Lance, I think is a perfect article to stand out as far as how you're describing what these young players are doing and what they could mean to the Flyers in the very, very near future. Do you know what I mean? And
Hmm.
it goes back to what you just said about how the Flyers need to build through the draft. and they need to be able to bring these young players up and develop these young players. Bring them all in the same, you know what I mean? Yeah, they have to do their junior stints and all that, but as soon as you can, get them on the AHL team, right? Getting these guys playing together is going to only do good things for the Flyers down the road. We've seen how other teams have done it. We've seen how other teams have successfully done it. They've hung cups and banners are hanging from their rafters now. Do you know what I'm saying? So you need to follow that same pattern and do the same things. You need to build through the draft. So, Lance, you just released an article what, you're about an hour or so ago, right? I mean, this is still dripping. Right? I mean, come on. All you have to do is go over to SteelFlyers.com and check it out. The latest article from the writer extraordinaire, Lance Green, checking in with the Flyer centers down on the farm. Go to SteelFlyers.com. You can check out his latest article. And we're going to talk about that right now because, Lance, you point out 3 of the positional players that has causing some adversity right now with the Flyers, with Sean Couturier being out. And with lines being shuffled now, where we got the PhD line back, and they hit on all cylinders once they got back. You got to see Noah Cates move up to the top line, and that just looked great. Right? They had chance after chance. That was beautiful. I'm even going to say it. Wait for it. Okay? Second line looked really good too. Okay? And that was centered by your buddy, Morgan Frost. Okay? But Travis Konechny and Tyson Forster on that line. And I really think that Tyson Forster, it's going to drop sooner or later. I mean, it's going to have to. It's got to. This kid has done everything you possibly can do except put it in the back of the net, right? Travis Konechny right now leading the NHL in goals with 9. Leading the NHL in goals with 9. Okay, we're only 11 games in, but hey, we're not going to be able to say that after too long, you know what I mean? So I'm just going to put that out there. But the thing of it is this. The center position for the Flyers has been part of the adversity here because with Sean Couturier going down, that moves Morgan Frost into the lineup, and then that shifts everybody back. You put Scott Lawton back on the third line. You bring Poling up for the fourth line. This was a really really well put together team. I would just like to see Morgan Frost play to his expected potential as a la Bobby Brink. If he could bring it every night like Bobby Brink could, then I think that the door would close on the whole Frost, whatever you want to call it, what's going on. Okay? Because all this kid needs to do is play and play well, and we're just not seeing it. Now, he's been given opportunity. That line looked really good, okay? Konechny scored. There was a lot of quote-unquote chemistry there with those guys, and that looked like a really nice, solid line. But I need to see production out of that, okay? That's what I need to see. And I think that if the fan base were to see production out of Frost like they do out of Brink, like they do out of the other players that are kind of on that same level, then I think that would all that stuff would go away. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, consistency is a thing, but I think the production, when he does get the opportunity, when Sean Couturier goes down yet again, hopefully not with a long-term injury, just a night off, whatever. But hopefully,
yeah, right.
But he was able to jump in when promoted to maybe a line that he wouldn't necessarily be on because his inconsistent play.
Yeah.
But he's able to step up and do that. But like you said, he's got to bring it for himself. He can't just rely off of, you know, playing with, you know, better players all the time, because the Flyers are going to need him, and do need him, to be more of a third or fourth, third line center per se. I would say right now. You know, I don't like messing with the centers at all. You know, I wrote that article how I think they're better with Coots and Scott Lawton and Noah Cates and Poling down the middle. I just think that dynamic works a heck of a lot better. They're defensively sound in that sense. I don't know. It's just
It's funny
interesting to
how
me.
it's
Yeah,
funny
if
how
he
when they
doesn't
go
fit
back to
in,
that, it's funny how when they go back to that lineup, with the only difference being that Frost is in for Couturier,
hmm
right? They go right back to that original, and look at what happens against Buffalo,
yeah,
right? That fourth line, that PhD line, came right out and was on fire, and
yeah,
fuego, whatever you want to call it, right? And first line with Cates didn't look like they skipped a beat. Do you know what I'm saying? And the
yep.
third line with Lawton back in there, man, that was great. I love seeing that. You know what I'm saying? Because I didn't like Lawton down there on the fourth line, because I limiting his playing time is not good for the Flyers.
No, he
Scott
does too
Lawton,
much in the forechecking and everything else to be
fourth
stuck
line
down and
guy.
playing fourth line
Right.
minutes. Yeah, he's not that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Okay, so that to me was a big mistake, and I think that maybe Tortorella learned from that. You know, maybe we should not put Scott Long down there on the fourth line, or you know, but looked good. Okay, just need to see that consistency. Need to see that production, right? If you're going to be a center, I need you to win some faceoffs. Okay,
hmm
I think he was like 4 of 17 in the faceoff dot. And
Last night or what?
yeah, in the
Mm,
Buffalo, the second
yeah.
Buffalo game, you know, man, come on now, you need to do better than, because we need them face-off wins. That's what Couturier
Right.
does. It gives us
Right.
those face-off wins. So, look,
Well,
I'm
talking about
just picking.
centers, yeah,
We're
but
talking
talking
about
about
centers.
centers,
Yeah,
let's leave
talk
one
about the ones
thing.
down on the farm.
Talk about the ones down on the farm, but the last thing, and I said it in this article as well, is with these guys down on the farm now, the Flyers have depth at every position now. And
Yeah,
what they need not to do anymore of, which they have in the past, is draft somebody because they like them and then try to change them. As far as, hey, we need at this, you know, a position of need, and switch them to a position of need rather than allow them to just be what they are, a center, a wing, a defenseman, whatever the case may be. Um, and let it ride out. If you draft from a position of need, then you won't have to do that and try to create, you know, like they did with Lawton, make him play wing because they didn't have any wings. Make Drew play wing because they didn't have any wings.
right. No, yeah.
You're taking away. You're taking away. You know, their talent that got them there, and trying to you know make them be something they're not. So with these guys in mind, with this article that will I'll let you you know transition any way you want into talking about these guys, but hopefully we won't have to do that. You know, to
I
find a new center in the
So that's
making
the
here.
thing, right? That's the thing. And here's the one thing that I was actually I was very impressed with, because of the guys that the Flyers have actually selected in the draft, especially with Danny Briere, and then the last draft that was previously. But in this article, we're going to talk about some of these guys that are playing right now in their college teams, okay? And these guys are going to potentially be with the team next year, or with the AHL team with the Phantoms potentially next year, or finishing out the rest of their college career based off of how old they are and what's going on. But I got to tell you something though, man, and this is what I think plays into exactly what you're talking about here. What I hope the Flyers don't do with these guys, okay, and I hope they don't take a natural center and try to make him into something else. Do you know what
Right.
I mean? And the first guy I want to talk about is Massimo Rizzo from the Denver University. In this article, Lance, Talk to me about this young player, man. What a dynamic young draft pick that the Flyers were able to garner with this guy.
Well, yes, they got him in the trade, of course, for essentially Tony D'Angelo. They tried it. It was going to be that trade. Then the league shut that down because it had been less than a year since they were traded. So
Right, because of the way it was
the
offered and
right.
structured, and
So yeah, right. So we had to buy D'Angelo out, and it was kind of a deal. I don't know how it was passed, but they gave us his rights. Carolina did for you know Kase. So definitely a guy that wasn't even playing over here anymore and all that stuff. It was kind of just of a thank you for buying out D'Angelo, so we could still make that deal kind of happen. But hey, we'll take it, right? He's a 22-year-old center that plays for the University of Denver, and boy, he's had some great years. Back in 21-22, he won a national championship with Bobby Brink, ex-team, former teammates, which is always good to see some guys that work together well and reunite them. So that would be cool if he ever gets to do that. But last season for Denver, Rizzo scored 46 points in 38 games played. He did pretty darn stinking good, right? But even this year, this is his third year with Denver, and it's off to a pretty good start too. I think he's tied with multiple people for second in points in all of the NCAA right now. Okay,
that that's
he's
a
got
that's a pretty darn that's some lofty air to be in. By the
right.
way,
Yeah. Considering there's a lot of first round talent, uh, top 10 talent, even playing in the NCAA right now. So you look at it, and he's scored 5 goals, 10 assists for 15 points this season alone. Currently, he's operating on a 2.14 point per game average. And for his career with Denver, he scored 97 points in a little over 2.25 seasons,
yeah,
and is a plus 54 for his career. So not only can he put the puck in the back of the net, but he can prevent the puck from going into his as well. And that
responsible.
is a responsible center is just right up our alley, just like the guys we already talked about that are already here in Poling and Cates and Scott Lawton and Coots. That is the type of center that we want, that is going to be able to, you know, keep his points that he does score, be purposeful, because he's not on the ice when the other
Yeah,
team scores 2 goals or whatever.
or
So
whatever. Yeah,
or whatever. So that is a big deal. Now Rizzo, we only have his rights, right? We still have to sign him, and Carolina, I guess, couldn't. So that's why he was dealt. So somehow Danny Briere's got to get out to the Rockies and be able to talk to this kid at the end of the season, and get him to sign a professional entry level deal
sooner than
to
that.
become a Flyer. Yes, he's 22. He's a little bit older prospect as far as the NCAA goes, but he's still producing as one of the best players in that league, in a league that is vastly becoming probably one of the better leagues outside of the NHL in my mind. Of course, you got the KHL and all that stuff, but you have tons of first, second, third round talent playing in the NCAA right now. More guys are going to college. It's definitely tougher than playing against being 18, 19 years old and in your draft years, and playing against 15-year-olds in Canadian juniors, 16-year-olds in Canadian juniors. Not everybody is, of course, but that is, something where you're playing men in the NCAA. So for him to be able to be putting up this kind of point production, playing against this level of talent is promising for the Flyers for sure. We just have to make sure
We get
that
him.
Danny can get it done and sign a contract before he just walks and goes signs with whatever team he so chooses.
Or the one that comes along and flashes him and says, "Hey, I'll just come play
Right.
for us." You know what I mean? And
Well,
so
that's I mean, he's our property right now as far as the Flyers go. But, past a certain point after he's been drafted, if a team hasn't signed him, he becomes ultimately a free agent. So then anybody could do that. Yeah.
it's one of those things where this is a potential player that you should probably have in not just in the farm system, but you should also have him sign under contract. Do you know what I mean? You should
Right.
get that
Right.
done. You know what
You
I'm saying?
you
So that
definitely need to do that. I think he is one of the better centers in our system. So it needs to be done. But there's other centers that Danny Briere has not just traded for like he did, you know, with Rizzo, but has
how
also
about Denver?
drafted as well, right? Yeah,
Barkey, Denver
Denver
Barkey, man,
Barkey, right?
for the London
So
Knights.
yeah, so a very similar player to Danny Briere. If you compare them, they're both 5'9".
Yeah,
They
feisty.
both play a similar style
Yeah,
game,
yeah,
a
yeah.
similar stature.
Yes.
So go
Speed,
figure, right?
elusiveness,
He sees
right?
he
Good
sees
puck
a
work.
sees a player just like him and takes him in the third round this year. So yeah, Denver Barkey of the London Knights, he's a guy that was on my radar, but not really to this extent. But I gotta say, I was pleasantly surprised
We
by
both
him in
were.
camps.
We both
He
were.
he definitely showed that he belonged at camp and was really putting forth some good efforts. In the preseason games and all that. Definitely a spark whenever he touched the ice. Just kind of like Bobby Brink in my mind too,
Yeah.
where every time he's out on the ice, you definitely notice him doing something good. It doesn't have to be that he's out there scoring a goal. It doesn't have to be
Right.
that he made some nice assist to be able to get on the stat sheet. He does the little things well too. That if you don't pay close enough attention, you'll miss. But for sure, he's a definitely interesting player to have in this system. And in 13 games played so far this season, he's scoring at a .30 point per game average for the London Knights right now. So definitely interesting. Has scored 8 goals, 9 assists for 17 points. And if he goes along this path on this production line, he's due to get about 89 to 90 points this season, which is pretty darn good for a third round talent.
Right. We'll
And
take that.
and he's projecting out to be a plus 47 player. So again, not only is Danny went out and found somebody in Rizzo that is defensively responsible as well as being able to put the puck in the back of the net, but he's gone out and drafted Denver Barkey, who is doing the same now, right? He's at just 18 years old. Usually that part of somebody's game comes a little bit later when
Yeah.
they've been drafted and that offensive talent is there, but then they got to develop that defensively responsibility.
Yeah.
But these guys have it. They have
Both.
everything, right?
Yeah.
And this is the type of person that I'm seeing a trend in this new Flyers regime, right? And Ryan Poling as well. He signed him, and he's defensively responsible as well. So I like this direction for at least the centers since we're focusing on them today. But you know, this is promising. This is promising. And there's one more prospect that I talked about in this article
Yeah,
that
man.
is very similar, you know, production and defensively responsible as well, and that is Ryan McPherson. And of course, we know that Danny Briere drafted him in the sixth round this past summer, and he plays for the Penticton V's of the BCHL, where he is operating at a 1.38 point per game pace through 14 games played. He scored 7 goals so far this season, 12 assists, and 19 points
Man.
in 14 games. I'm sorry. So amazing production coming from somebody drafted so late. He is right now, I think, top 5 in his league
Yeah,
for
and
point production.
and
So
let's not
amazing.
let's let's say here that these Penticton V's are in the BCHL. That's no slouch league. Okay, that's not a slouch league there at all. Okay, that's some quality talent going on there, and I I'm really liking Ryan McPherson, what he's been able to do
Hmm.
this season so far. When we talked about Denver Barkey, when we looked at him when the Flyers drafted him, we were a little bit taken aback by him. But once we started looking at how this kid has played and how he's come up through, we were really impressed with Barkey and the fact that the Flyers were able to get this particular player. I think we're having that same kind of thing with McPherson here too, where he didn't look like. I mean, look, these are not sexy picks. Third round, sixth round. Okay, right. These are not the sexy picks. But let's face it. This is something that the Flyers needed to do. They needed to bring in some of these depth guys because of Couturier's being hurt, because of even Cam Atkinson missed a significant amount of time, and you can't have enough good centers because look, it's not all just about putting the puck in the net. You got to be able to, just like what these other players are doing, that Lance points out in his article, that these players are defensively sound. They're plus players. That means
Right.
they're 200-foot responsible. Okay, that you can't necessarily teach that, and you can't necessarily coach that. That has to be an innate responsibility within a player to realize, hey, I got to get back and do this. I mean, I guess maybe it's something you could coach, right, Lance? Right?
Well,
You
you
could
can
you could
definitely
probably
try to
coach
teach
it.
that. Yeah,
Yeah.
you can definitely try to teach that later on. But like McPherson does, he's normally one of the last offensive players out of their own defensive zone because he's deep down into his own zone to help start the breakout and get it out. So, he's almost a whole nother defender as
Yeah.
well out there. He gets down in the defensive zone, board battling and everything so much to be able to help his team out. So, this is the type of trend that I like to see from the Flyers. Scoring goals is nice, but it doesn't mean crap if you let the other team score more goals
If you're a
than you
minus
produce.
player,
So
yeah.
if you're a minus player, your stats aren't really doing anything to help the team. So this is just promising prospects that are coming up through the system and currently developing at the center position. And I gotta say, still, I like it, and I'm gonna keep an eye on it, and others that are coming along the way. So
Well,
kudos to Danny Briere.
yeah.
He got some good draft picks there for sure.
We liked those draft picks more than the earlier round draft picks. Anyway, we
Well, I
tend
think
to.
they're all good players. I think they're all good players. But yeah, I mean, definitely, like I
Yeah,
said, he's out taking risks to
I
to
agree.
make this team better by leaps and bounds. And
I like it.
we'll see where we're going, where it keeps heading and trending in that direction. But as of right now, it looks good.
Here's the thing, right? The fact that this team has now become a lot more transparent in what it's trying to do, and it has come out and explained to the fans what it's trying to do. Okay, the whole keeping things under wraps and covers like what Hextall was doing and all that other stuff, and then the next regime just trying to keep everything all tight and in house. I get that to a certain extent, but for the most part, in this day and age where people have access to information 24/7, you have to be a little bit more transparent with what you're doing, especially a high visible franchise like the Flyers are. who've been in the world for a long time, who are one of the standards that a lot of teams look at and go, hey, we want to be like the Flyers because they've won Stanley Cups. They've had consistent, for the most part, with the exception of the last 10 years, have been in the playoffs mostly every year. You know what I mean? That kind of stability is something that a lot of teams covet. And we're very lucky to have a team that is as stable as the Flyers are, where, the only reason why the ownership changes is because unfortunately he passed away. You know what I mean? And so, but that's what I think is going on here. They have set out with a plan. They've let the fans know what the plan is. I'm really liking what the president is doing. I'm really liking what president of Hockey Ops is doing. Okay? And I like what Danny Briere is doing with this team. They're bringing it into the new century. They're using analytics more, and they're doing a lot more of that. They've revamped the entire coaching staff. They've revamped the medical staff. All these things that we talked about that needed to happen for the Flyers are happening under Danny Briere's watch.
And I think it's been a short amount of time that it's been happening, too. A lot has happened in a short amount of time, and that is great. It's not a prolonged process. They're trying to fix the problem now.
Yeah, because they want to be contenders while Tortorella is still under contract. Okay, he's got 2 more years left after this year, right? And so that puts Mitchkov in for the first time for the first year in Tortorella's last year. If that can happen before that, we get Cutter in before that. We get, some of these other players in here. Barkay, maybe. We get Rizzo in here, or McPherson, or somebody, or some of these other draft picks can come good in the next 2 years. Hey, man, this team has nowhere to go but up.
For sure.
Okay? That's what I think is the whole thing here with the Danny Briere coming in and the Keith Jones coming in and the John LeClaire's coming in and the Sharps coming in and all this is this team can only go up. Okay? They've been at the bottom, now they can go up.
Yep. I mean, I think that's a great place to leave off this episode, Steel. I agree. I think it, drop the mic on that one, right? It's it's just exciting to start to see this team.
It is.
Turn the page and get righting the ship here. So, hey, buddy, I got a new article coming out too. I just put one out, but I got to finish a closing, and I got another one coming. So.
Yeah, man. Hey, look, we're not going to turn down an article from the great Lance Green now. Come on now.
Right. So that's read this one that just got put out, and I'll blast that. I haven't even blasted it out through social media or nothing yet.
Nothing yet. Yeah, man. That's
nothing
still fresh.
Yet, but
it's still dripping.
And then I got another prospect article coming out looking at all the goaltenders of the 2024 class.
There you go.
So it'll be interesting.
Because he's the goalie, right? So he's got to be looking at goaltenders. So you know what I mean. And so, but I'll tell you what, man. Lance, thank you for everything that you do. Thank you for all the articles that you put out, all the research that you do. Look, it really shows. Because thanks to you, Lance, thanks to all you folks out there, the website has gone haywire, has gone amazingly because of what you guys do, because of the articles that you write, Lance, and the shows we put out there. Thank you guys for so much support. The amount of visits, the amount of clicks, the amount of views that we get on the website, I have to say is staggering. It blows me away. I was not expecting that at all. You know what I mean? The fact that the Hockey Writers Ink show is 11th ranked in all of Flyers podcasts. Thank you guys very much for that, man. That's all because you guys ranking us out there when you find us and you give us a good ranking. So thank you very much for that. Lance, why don't you tell the folks where we can find you, my friend?
Yeah, as always, guys, you can see all my stuff at SteelFlyers.com. And you can catch me on Twitter at lance.green39, as well as Facebook, Flyers,
Oh yeah.
fan pages, and all that. All my stuff's all over that, and you can message me on there as well. Get up with me. I love to hear from fans, love to talk with fans. Uh, you know, good or bad, back and forth banter. I love it. You guys are some of the most knowledgeable fans in the NHL, so it's good to hear from you guys.
For sure, for sure. And listen, you can go to the Hockey Writers Inc. Twitter. It's HCKY Writers Inc. On Twitter. So at HCKY Writers Inc. on Twitter for Hockey Writers Inc. All you have to do is go there, drop us a line. If you got a question, by all means, let us know. Or you can go to the website at SteelFlyers.com. Go there, you go to the Hockey Writers Inc. show page. You can submit a question through the website there via an email. So you can do that as well too. So we'd love to hear from you guys. We'd love to get into it and all the other stuff. So thank you very much for all you do, Lance. I am your co-host, Steel Flyers. You can find me on Twitter at SteelFlyers52, and you can find all the great stuff that happens at the SteelFlyers All Sports Network at SteelFlyers.com. Thanks everybody for checking us out. We'll catch you all on the next episode of the Hockey Writers Inc.